Think to yourselves about whether or not you've ever attended a training that you thought was fantastic, but never had the opportunity to implement what you learned. In order to make a training truly effective, there should be some kind of follow-up to find out if you're using your new skills or what more you need to learn in order to make it work for your practice. Our hope is that using the Child Outcome Summary Team Collaboration Checklist, or COS-TC, will serve as that follow-up to the modules and training you have received about the Child Outcome Summary process and how to engage families. The purpose of this training today is to empower you to support team members in improving their Child Outcome Summary team collaboration skills. Our learning objectives today will be to understand the purpose of the COS-TC Quality Practice Checklist, to analyze the presence or absence of quality team collaboration practices in video clip excerpts from COS team meetings, and to identify practices to improve upon for optimal COS team collaboration and design a plan for implementation. And we'll start with understanding the purpose of the tool. The Child Outcome Summary Team Collaboration, or COS-TC Toolkit, is designed to assist states and programs in improving COS team collaboration. Built around a set of quality practices, the checklist is a mechanism for those who implement, supervise, or train on the COS process to identify, observe, and assess recommended team collaboration practices in COS implementation. It really underscores ways to actively engage families as critical members in the COS process, and there are some supplementary materials that provide examples of ways to introduce the different COS discussion points with team members. The tool celebrates progress and identifies opportunities for further improvement in COS team collaboration and really ultimately aims to improve the quality of COS data. So prior completion of COS introductory training is strongly recommended for the optimal use of this tool. And those introductory trainings include the COS modules that can be found on the Dell website, as well as the engaging families in the COS process training provided by ESIP staff. The COS-TC Quality Practice Checklist was developed by a group of national Part C technical assistance centers with input from parents, researchers, service providers, and other technical assistance providers involved with the COS processes in early intervention and early childhood special education programs. The quality practices emerged from observing teams engaging in the COS process and the realization that greater family partnership and guidance in the COS process were needed. Research on COS implementation was instrumental in defining the quality practices included in the tool. The tool can be used for self-reflection or team reflection. It can be used for observation and feedback by a supervisor or mentor to identify current practices and opportunities for improvement, to measure process change, and to determine staff understanding and application of quality COS team collaboration practices. It also can provide the foundation for training staff about quality COS practices. The COS-TC Quality Practices Checklist is made up of 3 tools: a checklist of quality practices, descriptions and examples that expand on the checklist, and associated video clips. These tools and additional resources for trainers organizing professional development on the COS-TC Quality Practices are available at the ECDA Center website on the screen. So let's take a look at where you can find the resources. This is the ECDA Center website, and if you scroll down, there's materials for individual providers and for teams. So there's this document guidance on using the COS-TC checklist, the quality practices checklist and descriptions, and the actual checklist, and we'll look at these a little bit later. And there's also materials here for trainers, including this video library that we'll use today. The quality practices highlighted in the COS-TC checklist are organized into 5 sections: planning for the COS, explaining the COS to families, understanding child functioning, and building consensus for high-quality COS ratings and interactive practices. You'll notice that these sections are not things that would all happen during the same conversation. Planning for the COS would happen as a professional team after the evaluation and other information gathering and prior to the IFSP meeting, where a descriptor statement will be chosen. Explaining the COS to families would begin at intake. Demonstrating an understanding of child functioning would happen along the way as you gather information and collaborate with families on putting together a well-rounded picture of the child's development. And building consensus is what happens during the IFSP meeting when choosing a descriptor statement. The interactive practices happen all along the way. The checklist includes space to document notes about quality practices, as well as space for rating each quality practice as implemented, partly implemented, or not observed during observation or through self-reflection. So let's make the connection to our ESIP work so far for those of you who are implementation sites. You've been receiving training in promoting first relationships, and we'll use the home visitor rating scale, or the HOVRs, as a way to observe how providers are implementing those practices. The COS-TC will be used in a similar way to guide observation and reflection on how providers implementing what they have learned about engaging families in the COS process. So how have you been engaging families since the training? Just take a moment to either reflect on or share with your group, if you're viewing this together, how you've been doing this since receiving training from ESIP staff and the modules. So go ahead and pause the recording here if you want more time. Let's take a look at the actual COS-TC checklist and the other materials available to you for this process. Each section is broken out into several quality practices. You're able to mark whether that quality practice is not observed, which is a no, observed some of the time, which is partly, or observed most of or all of the time, which is yes. Under section 4, building consensus for high quality practice, for high quality COS rating, you're able to document your observations for each of the 3 child outcomes that are discussed. The last section, interactive practices, gives you the opportunity to think about overall interaction and communication skills. The COS-TC checklist and descriptions is a great guide to use when preparing to use the checklist during a home visit, observation, or a discussion about the quality practices. It includes the background and purpose of the tool, the actual checklist, and in-depth explanations of each quality practice and what to look for. It also includes examples of the language providers can use with families during the COS discussion. It ends with a COS outcomes content reminder tool that you can use to remember what skills you're looking for in each of the 3 outcome areas, and an example narrative of a child's functional skills with ideas on the language you can use. The guidance on using the COS-TC checklist is just a quick overview of how to use the checklist and accompanying materials. There's also a video library on the website, which we looked at, that we'll use for this training and can be used for additional practice in using the tool for your team. When you want to access the videos, there will be a quick survey to take with basic info on your role so they can track who's using these great materials. And once you fill out that quick survey, you'll have access to the videos. Now we're going to dive in and practice using the checklist with some video samples of actual COS discussions. So go ahead and pull out your checklist. This is section 1 of the COS-TC checklist, Planning for the COS. In this section, you will learn quality practices for preparing for the COS meetings with families. For each quality practice, consider what a meeting might look like if the quality practice was fully, partly, or not at all implemented. This page is from the Quality Practices Descriptions and Examples document and starts on page 6. It provides a description of what the quality practice is and what you are looking for as best practice. It also includes a few examples of what a provider might say that is aligned with best practice. It will be important for you to review this document before using the checklist so you have a solid understanding of what you're looking for. Pause the recording and take a few minutes to read the descriptions and scripted examples for each quality practice in this section about planning for the COS. Then we'll watch a video and practice using the checklist. Now let's watch a video of providers planning for the COS meeting with a family. As you watch the video, use the COS-TC Quality Practices Checklist to assess evidence of the quality practices. And just a little bit of a warning, the audio does not completely match up with the video, but hopefully the audio will be clear enough.
Let's see what we've got with our little buddy here. Buddy. Yes, our buddy. Let's take a look first. We've got the PLOD write-up based on the routines-based interview. We've got here the overview from the MISER. We just kind of highlighted the different things that we saw relative to the 3 outcome areas and if it's immediate, foundational, or age expected.
Okay, and we looked at the routine to do that, didn't we?
Yep,
okay.
Yep. And then the help charts are here too, which a lot of this was incorporated into the PLOD as well. Okay, so we've got that.
All right.
So let's see where we're at. With this one, we highlighted the things that he's doing and thought about where it is that he's functioning at relative to age expected peers.
Right.
And used the highlighter. Red was foundational, yellow was immediate foundational, and then green was age expected.
Okay, so we know that we're not seeing any age expected, but let's talk about maybe the immediate foundationals first.
So some of the things that we see was here, that early attending to what other children were doing and how he reached out and showed some interest in the other child.
Yeah, Mom reported that, didn't she?
Right,
okay.
Right, and that was at the playgroup. Sitting nearby another child. And then that little that chase game that they do.
And they said they do it quite often.
Yeah.
And he's looking toward her to kind of initiate it continuing on, so that's really nice.
But again, it's not, at his age, at 16 months of age, we would certainly expect more. So this is, I mean, this little interaction here that he's got going is probably closer to like 13 months.
Yeah, it's nice, but it's, yeah.
Right, it's a good, it's just before, but not quite there yet.
Okay.
It's nice to see that the tantrums are getting shorter, and he's able to resolve some of that. And then some of the foundational things was just that, I mean, the attachment that he's showing and the fact that Mom can't leave the room
without him either following or throwing a fit and then not recovering for quite some time. That is, yeah, he should be beyond that.
Yeah, so for kind of what it is that he's showing now is more typical, like we saw on the MISER as well, more typical like 8 months of age.
Very much so, yeah. And that was kind of reinforced by the help charts,
right?
Yeah.
Which is half his age. And then I just went ahead and highlighted here these little triangles. Some of the things that I think are atypical, like the high-pitched screaming and the arching the back, and that the way he kind of comforts himself.
When he's not familiar with people,
right?
He kind of seeks out more nursing-oriented behaviors.
Right. So I think some of those are a little atypical, which are hard to say. You know, it's age expected or it's immediate foundational or foundational.
It's a separate group, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think it's important to think of that in the mix.
Right.
Yeah. So let's make sure that we didn't miss anything, that we covered the full gamut of this outcome area.
And this is the child outcome prompt sheet that I'm using. We demonstrates attachment, so we talked about attachment, initiating, maintaining, and doing social interactions a little bit. He's not strong on that anyway, so that's why it's not highlighted that much.
I think that's where we got in that chase game, and then beginning to touch another one, another kiddo.
And then behaves in a way that allows them to participate in a variety of settings and situations. You know, we kind of talked how he's actually doing a little bit of avoiding of that, so maybe a little bit more atypical stuff, so that went in that separate category. Demonstrates trust in others, with Mom solid, 120%, but everybody else is a little bit, he's not ready for that yet.
Right.
regulates emotions, getting better. We've talked about some progress there. Relative understanding and following social rules. Again, it's that we're not even seeing it. So we talked about if we're not seeing it, we're not really even addressing it.
Right. So you're right. We can't say he doesn't have this skill, therefore it falls into age expected media because it's not there. Right. So let's just look at the things that he is doing.
And complies with adult directives. We kind of talked about that maybe a little bit later, but we did talk about. What did we talk about in there? Complies with familiar adult requests.
Well, some of that was with the little tickle game, the writing in the card, some of those kind of social routines.
Nice, yeah. Okay.
I think we hit on that.
And then sharing toys and materials with others. We've talked about maybe an interest now in others very early. Initiating, responding to, and sustaining interactions with others. Again, with mom.
Yeah,
we're seeing some of that. Yeah,
clearly,
it's very much highlighted in that.
His relationship with her is. He does well when she's around. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And then listens, watches, and follows activities during groups. Mom highlighted that he's emerging in some of those skills of feeling comfortable around other kids, sitting nearby them now. So that, we definitely addressed that in there. That was nice.
Okay. So I think just kind of a quick look at some of these, make sure that we talked about transitions a little bit, joint interactions. So I think we've covered the bulk of this.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I do.
Okay.
So take some time to reflect either on your own or as a group, if you're with one, on what you just saw using the following questions. What quality practices did you fully or partly observe? What quality practices were not observed? What would you do differently? And what is the greatest barrier for you to implement these practices? You also have access to a completed version of the checklist to find out how the developers of the tool rated this video and the others to come. So use this as a comparison to what you observed. Pause the recording here to allow for time for discussion. Now take a few minutes to think about your own process if you haven't already. Use the following questions as a guide. Are you accomplishing the quality practices in your program? What parts are going well? Where are there opportunities for enhancement? And what do you want to try? Again, pause now to allow some time for discussion. This is section 2 of the COS-TC checklist, planning for the COS. Explaining the COS process to families. In this section, you will learn quality practices for explaining the COS process to families. This section of the quality practice checklist and description starts on page 11. Pause the recording and take a few minutes to read the descriptions and scripted examples for each quality practice. Then we will watch a video and practice using the checklist. Here's a video of providers explaining the COS to a family. As you watch the video, use the checklist to look for those quality practices.
Tina, what we want to do today is have a discussion about Braylon's progress since participating in earlier. What we look at in our program is to understand the kind of progress that he's made with regards to these 3 big broad outcomes that we looked at initially. And what we want to see is, at that time, back just before or just after he was 2 years of age, we looked to see Where is he functioning at relative to other children just over 2 years of age with regards to the 3 outcomes? We'll talk about what they are. And now today, to have a discussion about where he's at relative to those 3 outcomes for children just 3 years of age. Because then what we do is get a picture of what kind of progress has he made. So has he moved closer to same age peers? Is he doing what same age peers are doing? Or is he further behind same age peers?
No, I'll be doing mommy.
And I think we all know, I mean, he's made amazing progress. So we certainly want to celebrate the great progress that he's made.
Push button.
We're not doing that one.
This.
So the 3 outcomes that we're going to talk about today are positive social relationships, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's all involved with that. Acquiring and using knowledge and skills, which is about his thinking, his understanding, his vocabulary development, and then we'll talk about taking action to meet needs, which is those independent things. And I think about I think about the other day when we were at the school for the transition meeting and how he drank out of the drinking fountain alone.
No, push button.
That was kind of cool.
This. Push the button.
Right. So this outcomes measurement piece is a required part of our program. To help us to understand not only how Braylon has done since participating in early intervention services, but for all kids in our program, we measure where they're at with these 3 outcomes. So it helps us not only
Put it together as a whole versus just measuring them on the same things.
Exactly.
So now take some time to reflect, again, either on your own or with your group, on what you saw using these questions as a guide. What quality practices did you fully or partly observe? Which quality practices were not observed? What would you do differently? And what is the greatest barrier for you to implement these practices? Go ahead and pause for time for discussion. And then again, take a few minutes to reflect on your own process in your program. Are you accomplishing the quality practices in your program? What parts are going well? Where are there opportunities for enhancement? And what do you want to try? This is section 3 of the COS-TC checklist, Understanding Child Functioning. The length of the discussion about the child's functioning relative to each outcome may vary depending on the information discussed during earlier interactions with the family, the child's age, and the consistency of the child's functioning in any outcome area. If the team has already gathered rich information about the child's functioning, the discussion may be a review of this information organized around the 3 outcomes. If rich information about the child's functioning has not already been discussed, then the team may spend more time discussing the child's functioning relative to the 3 outcomes. This section of the quality practices checklist and descriptions starts on page 15. Pause the recording and take a few minutes to look at that, and then we'll watch a video. Here's a video of a discussion about Lucas's functional development.
So the last outcome area is taking appropriate action to meet needs.
Some nice demonstration of caution right there. He did that, and he kind of got this, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. Are you gonna go under? You gonna go under?
I might fall.
If it's a risk, he'll take it. Definitely. Or he'll go for it at least. So when we're thinking about taking appropriate action, or taking appropriate action to meet needs, we're looking at things like the ability to move around.
I know, it's a bye-bye.
It went bye-bye?
Okay.
So this would include things like moving around to do what he needs to do, feed himself, participate in dressing,
Okay.
toilet cleaning. I'm gonna jump. Using words and language to meet his needs. I'm hungry.
Right.
I want something to eat.
Okay.
Give me cookies.
Yeah.
I need to go potty. All of that kind of thing. And appropriate use of objects. So is he using spoons, cups, appropriate?
Okay.
So,
Yes, I would say he is.
why don't you tell us a little bit about how he's doing with all of those kinds of things?
As far as dressing, we'll just start with that. He helps out right now. Like, he can put his pants on. He tries to put his socks on. He can't quite get the shirt over his head yet, but he can once I get it over his head, he can put his arms through by himself.
Okay.
He can't quite put his shoes on by himself, depends on the shoes, but I need to hold your hands. Okay? So, like his pants and everything, he can't really button by himself.
What about like a zipper?
He can't zipper by himself. It's really small. You know, like,
Right.
Waffle. You're not gonna fall?
Oh, fall? Don't jump.
Don't fall. No, don't fall.
Just testing it right now. Let's see, as far as eating and things like that, he knows the utensils fine, and he can use them okay. He knows even how to use a knife. We have like a kid knife, and he can cut with it using the right side. Like he'll do strawberries and onions and stuff with me. He'll go get his own out of the thing too.
So those are all really good examples of things typical
Yeah.
for a child that's 3 years of age.
Yeah, he's pretty good with that kind of stuff. And even we've been working on the pouring, like we've got some of the pouring things.
Right.
Lucas, you're
Hi.
big guy. The only area I would say that he's really struggling with is the potty training. It's been an issue, and
You went up?
we were taking a break for a little while because it just really wasn't sinking in. Nothing was sinking in too much, and revisit it again. Like, we're about to go to the States and stuff, and I know that's going to mess things up anyway. But he will tell me, like, when he is dirty.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Using a sentence?
I have poop. you
Okay,
know.
I have food.
Okay, Lucas, can you sit down? Okay. Why don't you get over here and jump? Get over here and jump. He won't really tell me when he's wet. And he won't say when he needs to. The urgency is what we're dealing with right now. Is he doesn't have... Where's your daddy when I meet him? But
How about, why don't you tell us a little bit about how he's doing with the diaper changes?
the diaper changes are fine. He'll grab me a diaper. He'll grab the wipes. You know, he wants to know what's going on and everything.
Mommy,
Yes,
my
Lucas.
turn.
You're going to jump.
No.
No, you're not going to jump though, because you keep saying that, but you're not doing it. So he does fine with that. Now he will go sit on the toilet, but he just kind of sits, and then he'll go wash his hands. He brushes his teeth. Great. He knows how to put the toothpaste on. He'll brush and everything. He's got a light up one that lights up as long as he needs the brush. He'll take a drink after that. He spits.
Okay. Wow.
So, no touching. No touching.
Hey, this is the door.
No, it looks like a door.
Touch.
So, I would say potty training is the main area we're having difficulty with as far as that. But he's pretty good with most of the other things as far as self-help. And he'll even brush his hair. He washes himself. We have a little loofah, so we name the body parts. As long as you don't put it on us. That's fine.
Mommy, what?
Watch. Oh, you're pouring.
Wash the chair.
Can you pour it in the cup? Okay, well that's fine. So he's pretty good with all those things, and he's getting better. We've been working a lot on the dressing stuff this summer. So
How about when you need to get out the door?
now it's much better. He'll go get it. I'll tell him to go get his shoes. He'll bring in his shoes to me. We'll put them on, and then he's ready to go. Or jacket. I'll say, get your jacket. Or he'll go get his jacket without me asking, depending if he needs it or not. And he can pretty much, if I get the zipper started, he can zip it up.
Okay, right. Yeah, getting that fastening loose
yeah.
is a little tough.
So it's that little zipper on your jeans that are... I see that. Oh, let's not dump the water. Okay.
What about when there are challenges to things that he wants to do? Like, maybe it's time to come inside.
Where'd it go?
He will throw a fit usually. He'll say, I don't want it, or I don't want to.
In the setting of leaving the house, he does great.
Right.
In the setting of coming into or leaving the outside.
Leaving the outside, when we come back from the car, usually he wants to hang out and stay outside, and so it can become an issue. If it's definitely something he wants to do, he is still in doing tantrums and things like that. But so we'll compromise. I try to talk it through with him, like, okay, we can walk on the rocks right now, and then we have to go inside. And it really depends on the day.
Is he willing to negotiate? He can calm down from the tantrums.
Sometimes.
Okay.
I would not say it's consistent. You want to jump? Okay, ready? Count with me. 1, 2, 3. Whoa! There you go.
Oh, I heard your feet hit the ground.
Can I take this off? Can you go put this back, please?
No.
It's hot.
What about
It's hot.
What about sleeping?
Sleeping. Okay, so we moved him to a big boy bed this summer, where he has full freedom to get up and everything, and he was still doing naps, and we finally gave those up because he kept coming. It took about 2 to 3 hours to finally fall asleep. So we did away with naps, and now he goes down pretty easily. He'll go down, like he'll get his little routine, and then he'll go down and lay in bed. He turns on the fan, lays in bed. He says kiss and hug, and turn off the light. He's good to go. So
And he'll sleep throughout.
he'll sleep all night. Yep. So thankfully that has been fixed.
And then another big thing in this area is following rules related to safety.
With this one, safety, he doesn't really get that. So now he does get things like if the oven's on and it's hot, he knows not to touch it. He's figured that out. When the furnace in here, or this big furnace is on in the winter, he knows not to go near it. So that kind of thing. It's more like physical stuff.
But even here when he was standing up there, he was demonstrating some caution. He didn't just go for it.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But the higher the better. I mean, he'll go for it, but he definitely will hesitate a little bit and stuff. But he wants to.
Yeah.
We went to Dino Park last week, and those huge slides, he goes straight to the top. There's the first time he wanted to go straight up to the very top one.
No fear.
No fear at all.
Was he able to go down?
Yeah. And he just kept going.
Yeah.
So if there is like a hill or a big rock he wants to climb them, he wants to do it.
All right, so again, take a look at how you rated that video, and remember that you also have the fully completed checklist developed by those who created the tool. And just think again about these questions in relation to that video, and pause here to give you some time. And now go ahead and reflect on your own process as far as having these conversations around understanding child functioning. And again, use these same questions to guide you, whether you're doing some self-reflection or if you're with a group. And pause now. Now let's take a look at section 4, building consensus. For each quality practice, consider what a meeting might look like if the practice was fully, partly, or not at all implemented. This section allows for observation on the discussion about each of the 3 outcome areas and choosing a descriptor statement. In this section, starting on page 23 of the COS-TC checklist and descriptions, you'll review quality practices associated with the final rating process. Pause the recording and take a few minutes to read the descriptions and scripted examples for each of the quality practices. Then we'll watch a video and use the checklist. So let's watch a video of a team building consensus for a high quality rating. As you watch the video, use the checklist and we'll reflect on it afterwards.
When we're up here, what do you think?
Well, I would. To me, it's almost like the same type of thing because there's a couple only like a couple areas where I would say he is not functioning age appropriately, but most.
In many ways, he's functioning in the age appropriate.
Yeah, I would say that.
And then we think again about across all settings and situations.
Not in all.
Yeah.
Because of the toilet training and stuff, that's just not there, so I can't say yes, to that.
And then thinking about the extent to which he's using age-expected skills and across all settings or situations. So he could, is it an occasional use of age, or is it a mix of age and not age appropriate? And if we want, we can look down here where a 5 would have more of the age expected and a 4 would have more of the immediate foundational.
Because it's just the one area, I would lean toward a 5. Because in all other systems.
Because he does have, when you think about it in this area, he does have a good mix of age-expected skills, like his climbing around, his getting around. You talked about the way that he's participating, showing independence in dressing and getting those needs met.
Yeah.
Well, he still needs some assistance with some of those fasteners. That's pretty typical for a child this age to continue to need some assistance with that. Okay. But he can put his clothes on.
Yeah.
His coordination is great. He's eating on his own, using a little knife.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of skills that he's demonstrating that are age expected. But yet still some that are more what we call immediate foundational or just before age expected.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree.
So again, take some time to reflect and go ahead and use these questions as a guide in reflecting on what you saw in the video. And now reflect on your own process and think about these questions with regard to your process and having this conversation with families, building a consensus and choosing a descriptor statement. Pause now if you need some time. A brief list of general interactive practices associated with quality teaming and decision-making is included in section 5 of the checklist. The set of interactive practices listed provides an essential foundation for effectively implementing other quality practices in the COS process, but these items reflect general content and are not specific to the child outcome summary process. During your own observations of your team, you would complete this last section, considering the whole process from start to finish. If you'd like to complete this section, you can go back and look at the videos again and think about these quality practices, or just take a look and talk about them as a group. We've developed an optional improvement plan that can be used after completing the checklist with your team. This is an optional form and will not be collecting this information. You can use it to track any improvements to the process that individuals or teams would like to make. You can use it as is or adapt it to meet your needs. As I mentioned at the beginning of the training, the checklists can be used in multiple ways, including individual reflection or group reflection. This improvement plan is designed to allow you to use it in the same way you use the checklist. If it was used to observe an individual in order to support their professional development, they can use this plan to map out any work they want to do individually. If you're using it for group reflection, you may want to track larger program improvement strategies that include the whole team. You might even want to think about breaking out your observations and improvement strategies by exit and entry COS meetings. They're very different, and any improvement strategies you come up with may be more applicable to one over the other. So thanks for joining us today. Please feel free to send any questions about the COS-TC to your program consultant or your local lead agency. Thank you.